Coming up on this episode of Game, we tear it up with a couple of old friends in our review as the Fraggot gets in gear with Epic's latest shooty blockbuster. We take to the skies with the newest demos to showcase some of the finest examples of aerial awesomeness. And just for you penny pinchers, we've got our weekly assortment of free-to-play digital treats lined up. All that and so much more, this is Game. Hey guys, welcome to Game, the only show you need to watch to find out the latest goss in the world of games. In fact, I'd say we're a little bit like the E of video games, giving you front row access to all the latest and greatest that the gaming world has to offer. Okay, first up, it's review time, and there's no prizes for guessing which game's up for critique on this episode. Now, over the last week or so, the Fraggot's been busy shacking up with the final entry to one of the Xbox 360's most outstanding franchises, the closing chapter in a story which began all the way back in 2006. Let's see how Gears of War 3 fared in this week's edition of The Review.
Hello and welcome to Fraggot's Gaming Den. Now in today's review, it's Gears as we take a look at part 3 of the Gears of War saga. Now if you haven't heard of Gears of War, what? You haven't heard of Gears of War? Rewind! First released almost 5 years ago, the original transformed the world of third-person shooting games when it was released back in 2006, showing gamers that visceral, in-your-face combat doesn't have to be exclusively in the realm of the first-person shooter. Set 2 years after the conclusion of Part 2, in which you coincidentally destroyed one of the last bastions of humanity, Gears 3 continues the story with civilization long since collapsed, in a world where small patches made up of the last humans on Earth are all fighting for survival.
Armor up.
I've got crops to take care of. If we don't grow it, we don't eat it, remember?
I think the radishes can cope without you for a while.
So, back to basics, but aside from all the chicken coops and vegetable patches, there also happens to be lots of ammo boxes lying around. Looking to offer a more personal story this time around, Gears 3 revolves around the surprise revelation of Marcus Phoenix's dad, a man long thought to be dead. But Dr. Adam Phoenix is very much alive and kicking, and what's more, he's working on a super secret mission. A mission for the brothers to the end.
But I've been held prisoner.
So, suitably manly testosterone-jacked story to underpin all the action. But I guess what all the fans want to know is what other changes have they made to win over some newer gamers? And for a game that's so focused on its multiplayer component, what else can gamers expect when they go online? Well, my fellow action junkies, stick around as we get into the guts of Gears of War 3. Now, the biggest change this time around, at least when it comes to the campaign, is the shift from 2-player co-op up to 4-player co-op. Now, what this means is that 4 players can now log on and complete the same campaign as a team. Much like Microsoft's other heavy-hitting exclusive, Halo Reach, Gears 3 was designed from the ground up to accommodate 4 players at once. What this means for the gameplay is basically the game can throw bigger and badder enemies at you and in much larger mobs, making the action in Gears 3 pretty pitch perfect, especially if you've got a couple of good guys covering your behind. However, aside from the 4-player campaign, most of the other noticeable improvements are over on the multiplayer side of things, with an all-new Beast mode, where 5 players spawn as locusts to try to destroy the humans. And because you get to select between all the locust class types, this mode really mixes up the gameplay. The well-loved Horde mode from Part 2, in which you and your team face off against waves of enemies, is also back and better than ever. This time around, not only are the maps a whole lot bigger, But much like a tower defense game, you're given time in between rounds to set up and repair defensive structures, leveling up as you go. And finally, if you're a little sick of these signature grey and brown corridors that the Gears series has kind of been known for, you'll be glad to know that Gears 3 is not only the most beautiful game that the company has released, but it's also the most vibrant, with lots of different environments to do battle in. I know, we're supposed to be in a war, but when a game looks as good as this, sometimes it's nice to take a little while to just go sightseeing.
Everybody chill. Relax, my man! Safety's on!
Now the main flaw is that if you've been playing this series from the beginning, Part 3 really doesn't change up the formula of the franchise at all, and aside from some minor tweaks to how the game controls, really feels like the epitome of a gaming holiday blockbuster, a franchise which really doesn't take any risks when it comes to its core gaming audience. It's still big, it's still flashy, but somehow I can't help feeling like I've gone down this exact same road before, maybe just peppered with slightly fewer explosions and sold under the name Gears of War 2. In the end though, Gears 3 is very much a fitting, if rather unsurprising conclusion to one of the best console games of this generation. It's 32 chapters of some of the most refined third-person shooting action that you can get, and with all the tweaks to the already popular multiplayer components, definitely one which is going to enjoy a huge online community. Sure, it's not a quantum leap as far as gameplay goes, and if you weren't already convinced by the first two games, Part 3 is unlikely to change your mind. But if you're just looking for a roller coaster video game blockbuster, or maybe just an extremely well thought out and balanced multiplayer action game, Gears 3 is pretty hard to pass up.
Hey! Those aren't stranded! They're Locust!
Oh, great. Look who's back in town.
Well, we did flood them out their tunnels.
By all accounts, definitely one worth waiting for. So, what are you waiting for? Well, if you're up for a little slice of machismo, Gears 3 is available for the Xbox 360 right now. All right, time for a little commercial break, but don't worry, we'll be back in a couple of minutes. But stick around, because when we return, it's all about the free stuff, gaming goodness on the cheap, as we detail the week's latest online offerings. And it's your chance for a little try before you buy as we round up all the demos worthy of your time. Hey guys, welcome to Game. Kelly here, and in our next segment, we're about to get down with some of the best freebies that we found on the internet this week. Now, over on our Facebook page, we always get requests for quality titles out there which won't cost an arm and a leg to get started. And with that in mind, we spent a pretty large amount of time picking and playing and choosing which ones are worth your time. So here it is, our pick of the best freebies to be found on the internet. This is Online.
On this Achtung edition of the best free games, we begin with a visit to see the rare and amazing giant panzers in their natural habitat in World of Tanks. A graduate course in heavy metal, this team-based game is all about large-scale warfare, as two sides of up to 30 players compete for battlefield dominance. Set against the backdrop of World War II, this free-to-play game features over 150 armored engines of war, all beautifully detailed and historically accurate. Now you start the game off with just a simple light tank, but after gaining a bit of experience, you'll be able to begin upgrading your moving hunk of metal into something a little bit more formidable. Or just head to the shops where you can part with a little bit of your cash for things like heavier guns, better ammunition, or all new tank classes. So, if you're looking to move up the ranks in the firepower department, the amazing artillery action of World of Tanks is available at the address below. Next up, we take to the skies with a couple of mechanical marvels of the slightly more aerodynamic variety in Ace Online. A massively multiplayer aerial combat game which has you in control of starfighters known as Gears. Take on missions from High Command in a futuristic face-off in the starry skies. Playing as one of 4 flight classes, Ace Online does at times feel a little like you're playing an FPS in the sky, and with easy to pick up controls, your fantasy of pulling off that barrel roll is but a tutorial away.
Now we will learn how to do a barrel roll. This technique allows you to dodge incoming missiles easily.
Now, don't expect anything too fancy in the graphics department, but for what this game lacks in looks, it sure makes up for in gameplay, with an interesting take on arcade aerial combat, and best of all, it's free. So, if you're looking for a new spin on the MMO genre, Ace Online is available at the address below. And finally, to wrap things up, something a little simpler as we take a look at an interesting tower defense offering from our good friends over at Arma Games. A simple title all about constructing in the face of ever-increasing adversity. Kingdom Rush is all about strategically setting up towers to fight off the advancing Horde army. With a large range of constructible towers to take on the orcs, goblins, and who knows what else the game will throw at you. This flashy take on strategy features a wonderful cartoon art style and some surprisingly deep gameplay. Now, far from just being an exercise in placing towers down willy-nilly, Kingdom Rush rewards calculated play, and while the earlier stages are a cakewalk, later levels will require serious battlefield know-how as you work to fight off your invaders. An easy to pick up family-friendly title which should keep all but the most ardent shooter fans happy. Get your fill of the medieval at the address below.
So if you feel like blasting a few ogre types to Kingdom Come, that last Flash offering sure looks like it's gonna pack in a lot of play. Okay, up next, time for a little game snack pack, because coming up, we've got an all-aerial edition of the Derby as we check in with 2 recently released demos featuring a love for all things flying. So whether it's the clouds or exploring the deep unknowns of outer space, hold my hand, Superman, as we dive into the demo Derby.
In this week's edition of the Derby, the year is 2015, the place, Africa. And as Lieutenant Colonel William Bishop, it's your job to take to the skies to stop an anti-government insurgency that's sweeping through the continent. In the demo for the soon-to-be-released Ace Combat Assault Horizon, you're presented with 2 missions from early on in the game, showcasing some of the game's stellar aerial combat. Featuring 2 locations, a rescue mission in Africa and a dogfight over the sunny city of Miami. Take control of a Black Hawk helicopter or an F-22 Raptor as you weave and bob amongst the clouds in a high-velocity dance of death. Now, the major feature in this year's release is something they're calling CRA, or Close Range Assault. And what this does is basically offer a sort of over-the-shoulder perspective, bringing you so much closer to the action. A flight sim like no other, this game really puts you in the middle of the dogfight. Plus, the new CRA mode really adds a layer of intensity that was previously missing. With some great gameplay to go along with the simply stunning graphics and slow motion cutscenes.
Here come the birds with the Delta boys.
The free demo of Ace Combat Assault Horizon is definitely one to check out. Next up, it's a blast from the past as we take a look at a remake of one of gaming's most critically acclaimed titles, the re-release of the simply amazing Radiant Silvergun. An old-school top-down shoot-'em-up which should bring back some memories for fans of the old Sega Saturn. This all-new HD version of the game makes use of the additional processing power of the Xbox 360, giving a nice graphical bump to the overall look of the game. Now, if you haven't tried your hand at this classic yet, you really ought to, because when it comes to shoot-'em-ups, Radiant Silvergun is pretty much the closest the genre has come to perfection. Featuring no power-ups at all, which is a pretty strange thing for shooters, the gameplay in Radiant Silvergun simply relies on switching up your attacks based on your situation. New in this re-release, fans can expect an all-new Ikaruga mode, in which the game uses the same scoring mechanics of its spiritual successor, as well as a classic mode, which turns off all the bells and whistles and lets you play the game as if it were 1998 all over again. So, if you're in for a bit of schooling in the history of your favorite hobby, or maybe you just want to take a time trip back to the old days when gameplay was still king, the demo of Radiant Silvergun is available for download on the Xbox Live Arcade right now.
Not too shabby. One of the standout shoot-'em-ups from the Dreamcast era. If you weren't one of the lucky ones to try this one out when it was first released, the all-new HD remake of Radiant Silvergun is available on the Xbox Live Arcade right now. Some great demos, all yours for free. Unfortunately, you know what isn't free? Well, TV time, so bear with us while we make our sponsors happy with a couple of commercials. Don't go anywhere though, because when we come back, we show you what an awesome time you'll be having in a couple of months. And we go hands-on with his airness himself with a first in Asia look at a title that's looking to clear the courts, only here on Game. Welcome back to Game. Now that Gears 3 is out, I'm sure you're left wondering, what else is there to look forward to? Well, my answer is plenty. There is no reason to despair, my darlings, because your gaming calendar is just about to get set on fire. Hold on to your hats, boys, and prepare to have your boxes blown away. It's time for the preview.
First up, it's off to the barrios of Brazil as we pay visit to the original Hard Luck hero in his return to action superhero status in Max Payne 3. Falling on some hard times, Payne is back, this time on the gritty streets of Sao Paulo, Brazil, a place where everything is for sale. Set about a decade after losing his mind over the death of his family, our deranged friend is back to his gun-toting ways, only now he's a hired gun working for some of the most dangerous people in Brazil. Yep, the same lunatic who killed over 600 people in the last installment is now a bodyguard. That's comforting.
Here I was again.
And as the story goes, our friendly security guard and part-time Bruce Willis lookalike is in hot soup after one of his clients gets abducted under his watch. Promising guns galore, Payne 3 looks set to come with enough metal you'd need a tetanus shot just for looking at it. However, curiously missing from this latest installment is Payne's trademark slow-motion diving, and of course, it'll be interesting to see how Rockstar handle the rebirth of Payne. Look out for it, sometime in March next year. Moving on, it's time to revisit the city of Stillwater as we kick back with the 3rd Street Saints. If you remember, the last time we saw these guys in action, they were living it up, having taken the city back from the Ultor Corporation. But they soon find out that they may have bitten off a little more than they can chew with some of Stillwater's newer residents.
Our organization is expanding into Stillwater. I am offering you the chance to leverage your assets against your lives.
Introducing a couple of new gangs to the fray, the storyline seems as far out as we've come to expect from the team. But what about the gameplay? Well, judging from some early footage, if you like the over-the-top action of the previous two titles, I think it's safe to say that you're in good hands. Now, the lure to this game has always been the option to do whatever you see fit, whether it's running about in ridiculous outfits, calling in airstrikes, or just testing your wrestling moves on some unsuspecting stranger. So, if you're looking for some open world gameplay which really does let you do whatever you want, look out for this Mountain of Destruction when it hits the shelves in November. And finally, in our last piece of gaming cake in this week's preview, we venture into a rather strange land where the force of gravity seems to be somewhat of a part-time employee. In Inversion, alternating gravity is the name of the game in a world where the ceilings become the floors and the floors become the ceilings. A third-person shooter set in a topsy-turvy environment. Take control of one of the fundamental forces of nature and just bend it to your whim. Featuring a lush post-apoc setting and a unique gameplay mechanic which promises to change the way we think about manipulating our environment. Inversion is proving itself to be quite the bomb, so look out for this bad boy to hit the shelves early next year.
Certainly looks like we've got a couple of awesome releases to look forward to. Don't forget to clear your schedules and make a date with your console. Speaking of a date though, the Fragate made a date with some very tall looking dudes and a very generous helping of balls. Big leather balls though, that is. In our exclusive first look at one of the most anticipated sporting game releases this year. It's the latest scoop on the brand new NBA 2K12. So exciting, I think I could just pee myself. I won't lie. Well, before this gets out of hand, I'd better let Frags take over and tell you more, as he became the first person in Asia to try out NBA 2K12. Let's see what he thought of his first look.
Thanks, Kelly. Yep, this is my controller. This shiny unit here is a specially designed debugged PlayStation 3, and over there, what you're looking at is the latest pre-release build of 2K Games' NBA 2K12. Now, unfortunately, due to a worldwide embargo, I can't actually show you guys what I'm playing right now, but we've managed to score some exclusive Asian TV footage just for you guys, so you know what's up with arguably the world's leading b-ball gaming franchise.
With the NBA lockout still in effect, it's sad news for basketball fans out there itching to get in on some hoop shooting action. But fret not, sports fans, all is not lost. 2K Sports is looking to curb your b-ball withdrawal, back in the courts again with this year's NBA 2K12. Now first up, if you thought last year's edition was great with the return of the classic Michael Jordan challenge, then you're going to be in for a real treat this year, because in NBA 2K12, they're taking this whole rewind thing up another notch. Featuring 34 unlockable classic teams for you to play with, 2K12 also looks to put fans in control of 15 of the most iconic players from the golden age of the sport, with accurate player bios, tendency, and even some true-to-life afros from back in the day. Now, each of these returning superstars will feature their own set of signature moves, from Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's unstoppable hookshot to Wilt Chamberlain's rim-shaking dunks. What's more, play a match from the 60s and you'll notice matching presentation with grainy black and white TV-style footage and cool retro-looking scoreboards. Now, if you notice, before the 1970s, there were no three-point lines on the court, so that's how it is in the game as well. Pretty cool. This period-specific presentation goes all the way from the 60s through the 70s, 80s, and 90s, right up to present day, adding a pretty unique experience to the gameplay. Also, having played this for quite a bit, I've yet to witness any kind of clunky animation, and for a game in which 10 men are basically banging into each other the whole time, it is pretty cool.
Any team needs 3 more wins than the Heat
players run smoothly and without the player markers on, it's actually getting pretty difficult to tell that you're not watching a real-life NBA match going on. Now, on the bad side, unfortunately, due to the lockout, no rookies will appear in this year's game until the lockout is lifted. But 2K has already announced that they'll be releasing an update, adding in all the new players once the messiness in the NBA is all cleared up. Aside from that though, this game is pretty much a slam dunk.
So, plenty to look forward to in NBA 2K12 releases next month. And of course, stay tuned to Game next week, where I'll be bringing you an exclusive review of the game a full 6 days before it hits the shelves, so look out for that. Now, in the meantime, back to you, Kelly.
Okay, darlings, unfortunately, that's all the time we've got. I'm all exclusively previewed out. But remember, you saw it here first on Game. Now it's website time, so remember to relive some of the most exciting bits from the show. Check us out online at espnstars.com/game. Talk to the Game team and check out our exclusive photos on our Facebook page at facebook.com/ESSGame. And for the ever-important links and details, Twitter is where it's at, twitter.com/ESSGame. Till next week, brothers to the end. Or sisters, whatever. Bye.